So this morning I wanted to just say a couple of things about something that may be a little bit surprising. I want to talk about goal setting. And it's, this is a very receptive practice that we do, receptive mindfulness, awareness that requires receptivity to be able to see what's actually happening. So we can notice and be aware of that. But that's not a passive, receptivity is not the same as passivity, if you like. We care about what's happening. And there's an activeness in that and an intelligence in that. And that intelligence is not a sort of intellectual intelligence, but the quality of samprajanya, clearly knowing what's going on. So when there are things in the mind that if they were to grow, they wouldn't be helpful to the practice. They wouldn't be helpful to the aim, which is what qualities in the mind can support the growth of awareness and therefore the growth of wisdom. So we're not just passively accepting things that aren't necessarily helpful, a low mood, tension, some klesha in the mind. Though we do very skillfully use acceptance as a hugely important step. So acceptance is good, passive acceptance, not so good. So our goal, if you like, is what supports awareness, what's going to help awareness become stronger, help it grow. That's the active element. So I'll just mention a couple of things in relation to that goal. So one is when the mind is resourced. There's enough sort of positivity that can support awareness in the observing mind, in the mind that's noticing what's happening. And the second thing I think that really helps is a faith and a confidence that we can work with the mind. We can hold, or awareness can hold whatever is in the mind. So in goal setting, we don't want to be overly preoccupied with the goal. I think this is an Alio's phrase, which I quite like. The long-term goals for most of us here are probably wisdom, compassion. But having short-term goals, or another way of talking about this could be just setting an intention, a strong intention, connected with the practice in the moment, can be very helpful. So rather than them being things that are off in the future, they're actually what's happening in the mind now and what would just help and support me to be aware in this moment. So there's a book I've been looking into, which is actually by a student of Sayadaw U Tejaniya's, and her name is Li-Anne Tang. I might put her name in the chat a bit later. And the book is called Get Off Your Cushion. So it's very much about transitioning from sitting practice into daily life practice. But she has I'm not that far through the book, but I've already been struck by a particular exercise in 3 stages. So I'm going to describe it and then I'll lead into it and you can use it in the practice if you would like to. So the first step, very familiar, we use awareness to just notice what's happening, notice how you are. And if there's something there that doesn't feel like there's something there that maybe is a little bit difficult to be with. Perhaps there's a lot of tension, or there's low mood, or the mind is quite dull, or there's a lot of thoughts, or there's anxiety. So any of those types of things in the mind. You could have a short-term goal to, if you like, on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe just you want to sort of take an anxiety or level of tension down a notch, just a notch. We're definitely not trying to get rid of anything, but just to sort of take it down a notch so that the mind is more comfortable, it's easier to work with. Or you might decide to you want to take it up a notch or two. You could have maybe there's a general intention or a goal to brighten the mind. You recognize that there's dullness in the mind a fair bit, perhaps when you're out and about. So the intention is take that brightness in the mind towards happiness, take it up one notch. So that's the first stage, actually, just recognizing what's happening in the mind. The second stage, if you like, is to do what you need to do to consciously incline the mind towards whatever that intention is or that goal setting is, towards relaxation. So away from tension towards relaxation, or away from dullness towards brightness or happiness, or whatever it is that you decide is the intention in the moment. So the doing is very little. The intention or turning towards, turning away from, turning towards. And then when you can feel that, that's maybe just a slight shift, that notch can be very slight. Smile to yourself, Li-Anne says. And I would describe it as feeling the gladness in your being. When that inclination of the mind towards tension has changed, and perhaps there's just a slight relaxation, for example. And that sort of inner smile just supports that sort of positive recognition and reinforces what's been happening. So maybe just give it a try, because I think this little exercise does both those things I was talking about. It resources the mind, brings more qualities into the mind that help support awareness. But what I've noticed in myself, it gives a very, very clear message to the mind that these small changes are accessible, are possible, accessible, with a small goal, a small change, a level of intentionality, and just getting that message quite sort of frequently. Actually, getting the message, the mind can change. Even in this sense, I can change the mind. Can be very helpful. So it's quite subtle, it's quite light. And it might be helpful, particularly at the start of a practice. And in some ways, it's a different way of approaching the resourcing exercises that I sometimes do at the beginning of a practice. Yeah, and just notice the impact in the quality of the mind that's aware, and the overall quality of the mind. Okay, I'll leave it there. And if you'd like to set yourselves up to sit.